We tend to think of the sun as this constant, unchanging thing up in the sky, something we've pretty much figured out. But what if I told you some of its most basic behaviors are still a huge mystery? Well, today, we're going to dive into a pretty wild alternative theory that tries to explain some of the biggest puzzles our star has to offer.
And this quote right here from particle astrophysicist Brian Fields, it just says it all. This came out right after some really surprising new data about the sun was released. And it's just such a powerful admission. It shows that even our own star can still completely stump us.
So, what exactly are we getting wrong? Well, it turns out there are these major observations that our current models of the sun they can't explain. Let's break down the first one. Okay, so first up, we've got a puzzle that involves some of the most powerful light in the entire universe, gamma rays. See, we had a pretty good idea of how many we should be seeing from the sun, but what we actually found was something else entirely. And look, the difference here is just staggering. Our very best models predicted one level of high-energy gamma rays. But when NASA's Fermi telescope actually looked, it's all the sun blasting out about 7 times that amount. Now, that's not just a small rounding error. That points to something we fundamentally do not get about our own star. But wait, it gets weirder. It wasn't just that there were more gamma rays, there was also this bizarre gap in the data. Right at a specific energy level, around 40 giga-electron volts, the gamma rays we expected to see were just gone. So to recap, way too many gamma rays overall, but a mysterious black hole at one specific spot. What in the world could explain that? Well, the source material we're digging into today puts forward a really radical explanation. It suggests that what we're seeing isn't just some weird energy emission, it's that we're actually witnessing the creation of matter itself. Okay, so the core of this whole theory is a concept it calls stacked spins. And the idea is actually pretty simple at its heart. You take a photon, which is pure energy, just moving in a straight line, and you transform its forward motion into rotational energy, or spin. As these spins sort of stack on top of each other, that energy basically coils up into a particle that suddenly has mass. So here's how the theory says it happens step by step. A super high-energy gamma ray is zipping along inside the sun. It collides with something. That collision converts its forward momentum into spin. As it starts spinning, it actually slows down below the speed of light, and this new, coiled-up internal energy is what we call mass. And just like that, a gamma ray becomes a proton. Pure energy becomes solid matter. This chart really shows the complete before and after. You've got the gamma ray. No mass, its energy is all linear, moving at light speed. Then you have the proton. It has mass, it moves slower, and all that energy is now contained in its internal spin. According to this theory, they're just 2 different states of the same basic thing. And this brings us right back to that bizarre mystery. The theory argues that the gap at 40 GeV isn't a gap in what the sun is producing, but a gap in what's able to escape. Those very specific gamma rays are being used up. They're being transformed into brand new protons before they ever have a chance to leave the sun.
Okay, so that's one mystery down. But hang on, because there's another really old puzzle about the sun that this same big theory claims to solve. The very strange behavior of sunspots.
I'm sure you've seen time lapses of the sun, right? Sunspots, those cooler, darker patches of crazy magnetic activity, they don't just pop up randomly. They appear in this incredibly organized, predictable pattern, concentrated in 2 very distinct bands in the northern and southern hemispheres. And these bands are so specific. They're centered at almost exactly 30 degrees latitude, both north and south. So the question has always been, why there, right? Why not at the equator or up at the poles or just scattered all over the place? Why this consistent, predictable 30-degree band for all of this intense activity? So the source material offers an answer that goes way beyond just our sun. It describes this universal mechanical model for how any spinning thing in the universe interacts with a background energy field. The author calls this the charge engine. And the main idea is that any spinning body, anything from a tiny proton to a massive star, is constantly interacting with the universal field of charge. It's not just a passive ball of rock or gas. It's an active engine that pulls in, processes, and then shoots out this charge. So here's how the model says it works. Charge gets drawn in at the poles. The body's spin then redirects that flow into this outward arc. And where does that arc finally reach the surface with the most intensity? You guessed it, exactly where we see the sunspots, right around 30 degrees latitude. And this isn't just some one-off theory about the sun. The source argues this is a universal blueprint. It applies to Earth, it applies to other planets, maybe even entire galaxies. So those sunspot bands, they're not some solar quirk. They're a visible sign of a fundamental process of the cosmos.
Okay, let's connect the dots here. We've got gamma rays that are potentially turning into matter, and we've got a universal engine that channels energy. So what does this all mean for how we think about the sun?
Well, this is where the theory gets really out there. The mainstream view, of course, is that while energy and matter are two sides of the same coin, you can't just turn a photon into a stable proton like this. But this source argues that's exactly what's happening. The sun isn't just a furnace burning through its fuel. It's actively manufacturing new hydrogen from light.
And before you write this off, the author makes a really good point. We already know for a fact this process works in reverse. We see matter annihilate into pure energy in particle accelerators all the time. So the theory just asks a simple question. If matter can become light, why can't light become matter? And this is the ultimate takeaway. It's a complete paradigm shift. It reframes the sun, not as this furnace that's slowly burning itself out, but as a factory, constantly creating its own fuel from the energy all around it.
And that leaves us with one final mind-bending question. If our sun really is a matter factory, what else out there in the universe might be doing the same thing? And how would that change, well, pretty much everything we think we know?